The opening words this morning are For Belonging by John Donahue. May you listen to your longing to be free. May the frames of your belonging be generous enough for your dreams. May you arise each day with a voice of blessing whispering in your heart. May you find a harmony between your soul and your life. May the sanctuary of your soul never become haunted. May you know the eternal longing that lives at the heart of time. May there be kindness in your gaze when you look within. May you never place walls between the light and yourself. May you allow the wild beauty of the invisible world to gather you, mind you, and embrace you in belonging.
I want to come forward and spend some time up here with the Wonder Box. It is here once more, and I had a little help today figuring out what to put in it, so hopefully it works for our story. Too cool? Too cool. Too cool. I'm wondering, would someone like to open the Wonder Box this morning? Let's go right here. There you go. Perfect. Great. Oh, excellent. All right, excellent. You can sit. Oh, you want to just pull them all out? Okay, that's good. All right, great. Oh, excellent. Should have put some paper in there, too. Okay, so today we're talking about a word called belonging. Do you know what that word means? Belonging? What do you think? Where you fit in. That's good. Belonging. And there's another word that's in there that I like to talk about when I talk about belonging. What is that other word? It's in there. Well, there's two words. Be. To be or not to be, that is the question. If I had the whole thing memorized, Jan would have been so impressed. But there's another word, longing, longing. What does longing mean? I'm longing for you. What does that mean? Kind of, I want something. There's a love. There's something that draws you to something, right? And so I think belonging is kind of related to longing and the things we long for. Now, sometimes in life, we have things that feel really black and white. That's an imagery. A lot of our TVs, some people's TVs used to be black and white. Not ours. We always were really spoiled. Black and white, right? And things felt like either I fit in or I don't. Black and white, right? Thinking binary. And some of those spaces, you kind of know right away, oh, I fit in there, or I do not fit in there, right? So you have some friends at school who might be like, they're kind of being mean to each other. I don't think I fit. I don't want to hang out with them. Or you have others who are like, I really want to hang out with them, and I fit that. Now, there's some places where it's not so specific, but there might be some signs. There might be a couple more colors, like maybe we got a little blue, you want to do the red one? And then orange. You want to hold those? Blue and orange. So it's like, oh, I like some of those colors, or purple, right? And you're like, okay, I like those. Maybe I'll fit in. And you don't know really until you go, right? So maybe it's like a new chess club you're joining. Or maybe it's a program at the library you go to. Or joining the choir, which I know is welcoming tons of new people right now. You don't know until you really go. And then there's places that have even more colors. Can you see those? So maybe we even say Roy G. Biv. I had to double check. I think they're in there. You want to hold those? And so you see, like, wow, this has the potential to be a place for me because it's got all the colors, or it tries to have all the colors in the rainbow. We sing that song, De Colores. Remember that song we sang a couple weeks ago? All the colors. And that is also a space many of us feel we'd like to be a part of. Some of us already feel that that's this place right here. Others say, we can work on some things. We could be more welcoming and create more sense of belonging too. And there's this poem that I really like by Rumi, and part of it says, out beyond ideas of right doing and wrong doing, there is a field. I will meet you there. When the soul lies down in that grass, the world becomes too full to talk about. Things like language, and he names a couple other things. They don't make any sense. Even the idea of each other sort of blurs into obscurity. And so I think about that. We actually have a beautiful field, and we have a community that tries to create community where we can all find a sense of belonging. And it's not just for kids who maybe they're still figuring out where their lines of community are, where people love them into who they're going to become as adults or youth, but it's for all of us as adults too, and figuring out where that community might be. And I hope that this community can be one of those places for us. But it's not just going to happen. There's not just a field somewhere. It's something that we create together. And that's going to take a lot of work, but I believe it's something we are already doing and we can continue to do together, all right? So, you're going to take your dragon, and you're going to go to classes, and you're going to have fun and learn? Good. I hope you have a great day.
Minnie Jean Brown grew up in a beloved community and knew she belonged. The Black community in Little Rock, Arkansas, made sure their children knew they belonged, in spite of the white world around them telling them they didn't, that they were less than. They tried to dim their joy, their smile, and every aspect of Black children. Minnie Jean was one of the Little Rock Nine that was courageously trying to integrate Central High School after the 1954 Brown versus Board of Education became law. In 1957, 3 years later, these 9 teenagers faced angry mobs, white people's fists and screaming hate and kill messages at them as they were pushed and blocked by the local police from entering the public, read white, school. Minnie Jean said there were 20 nice kids, 300 mean kids, and 1,700 kids who silently witnessed, thus condoning the hate coming down on these brave 9 kids. Several white girls said they hated Minnie Jean because she walked the halls of Central like she belonged. And Minnie Jean knew she did belong there. She thought those hateful faces were so wrong, she swore she would never treat anyone like that. Contrast that to the gay kids who grew up in families and churches and communities where they're told they don't belong. Not having community, church, and family to tell them that they did, most internalized the belief. My perception of white America is that we're told to conform or keep your mouth shut. Many of us don't speak up when we know something is wrong, when people are being excluded or killed or anything in between. And we judge and exclude a lot of people, to the degree that we have people in our society now who feel they don't belong and lash out through mass shootings. Today, people are finding belonging in the resistance movement and in the mega culture of hate. We all need to feel we belong. We are searching for it. I think about when I was searching for a church. The message needed to make sense to me. But how did the people treat me when I showed up? Did anyone come and talk to me and make me think I might belong here? Or were they all huddled in their cliques? Did I have to stand around looking lost, looking to make my exit? Or was there something for me to do and someone to talk to? Coming to a new group like a church takes courage and trust. Is it worth the risk of being reminded I don't belong in order to maybe find that I might? I know I belong here. It fits my values, gives me opportunities to be involved and make a difference. There are always people here that I want to see and spend time with. Can we be that kind of place for each newcomer that finds the courage to show up here? Perhaps the naming of love as our central value is a deep expression of longing more than it is anything exacting or clear. It makes sense. We have all longed for love and care, a sense of belonging, and a place that we can truly call home in virtually every aspect of life. We need these things as much as we need food, clean air, and water, and shelter. Poet and activist Adrienne Marie Brown suggests in a piece called Longing that an all-encompassing love is the only privilege I have seen have universal positive impact in the world. Many of us found Unitarian Universalism precisely because there was no clear pathway to fulfilling these needs in other faith traditions. Many of us remain in Unitarian Universalism despite those needs not being met in the ways we longed for, because we believe in the power and possibility of love to help us shift course. Perhaps our longing, despite what Unitarian Universalist means to each of us individually, is a place of collective alignment that can orient us toward the justice-making, equity, transformation, pluralism, independence, and generosity articulated by the revisions of Article 2. But we can't stop there. Understand me, there's nothing wrong with a deep desire to put love at the center of all we do, say, and believe in Unitarian Universalists. Longing is often a vehicle for imagination, redirection, and change, and it can be the energy that drives us toward becoming more of who we say we want to be, both within our congregations and affiliated organizations and out in the world. But the low buzz of a hoped-for future without a deeper call and commitment to act in the here and now can lead to the stagnancy and irreverence of a dying church. What's the bridge? How do we move from longing for a fully living into what is truest and best about our faith? How do we shift from what's aspirational and pretty from a distance to what's tangibly real and understandably messy up close? How do we push ourselves and one another out of the staleness of striving to an ethic and ethos of arriving?
This has been one heck of a week. On top of all the horrific news of life lost in the Middle East yesterday, I haven't had a week quite like this one since, well, likely since I arrived here almost 9 years ago. You see, and I mentioned this a couple weeks ago that it was coming up, on Thursday, every ninth grader from CSA New Tech High School here in Columbus loaded 2 school buses and drove out here to UUCCI to meet with me and several UU members and volunteers like Kate Slabosky and Jim Scarborough and Gail Nowles. And along with Adrian and myself, the president of the Hindu Society, Prasad Kandapi, came over to help us offer a welcoming environment for these young folks who were, let's be honest, maybe hoping that 2-hour school delay that morning would have just been a full cancellation of school and an excuse to sleep in. Maybe the volunteers were thinking that too. No, just kidding. No, instead, these 80 or so 15-year-olds shuffled off their buses, seemingly still waking up for the day ahead, likely unsure what they were about to experience. You see, many of them, I'd say most, may have been a little apprehensive going to an interfaith campus. What's an interfaith campus? And even after being primed by their teachers and myself about how such a space of harmony and bridge building could exist in all spaces, Southern Indiana, there was another thing to come and really be here. So we split them up into 3 groups, and they maneuvered their way around 4 different parts of the interfaith campus, where they learned in here about different religions, and they went over and toured the Hindu temple. They got to taste different Jewish foods that are important for different holidays, and they also got to walk around on the beautiful grounds, like the Memory Walk and the Labyrinth. And by the end of the couple hours that they were here, their energy was, pretty energetic. They seemed comfortable. They seemed to feel welcomed. They sat out in the fellowship hall, some at tables, some on the ground. There were a lot of people, after all. Some sat outside as the weather was really getting beautiful. And it was just quite something to behold. I was thinking to myself, even if none of these kids are connected to any of the 5 congregations that meet on the interfaith campus, even if this might be the only time they come into this building or come to visit the Hindu temple, for at least that morning, last Thursday, for at least those couple hours, this place was for those young people a place of true welcome and belonging. I have to admit, while I sat with Kate and others during lunch with the loud youthfulness surrounding us, I was reminded of the high energy we have been having here pretty much every Sunday since, I can't really remember when. It's been so great to see this place full with so many lovely people, so many of you of all different ages, from different backgrounds and journeys that somehow led you all here and led you to come back. And then when I see you out there during coffee hour, no one's sitting on the floor, but you could. There's a lot of you. I think how wonderful it is that our paths have crossed, that you have come to see UUCCI as possibly a part of what helps you make a home in this restless world. Now, I am not delusional that some of you are still figuring out whether UUCCI is a long-term spiritual home for you. I don't take you for granted, and none of us should. Instead, I want to support you as we all try and make this place one of belonging and loving embrace of all the differences that indeed all of these multitudes can be here under one roof or on one campus together. It's actually something I love most about my role in the congregation. I love getting to know you personally and taking the time to go out for coffee, which I like, or a meal, or meeting here or at your home to understand more your unique journey, your longing for belonging. It is a privilege, one I do not take lightly, to be welcomed into your own vulnerability around the very human experience of searching for a true sense of belonging. Sometimes these encounters with you or people who come to UUCCI are more evident where or how the journey or relationship will unfold. It's kind of evident what is to come next. Sometimes when people arrive, they know pretty quickly, yep, these are my people. I've found a place where I can be loved just for who I am. But other times, there are those who are not quite so sure. There are those, perhaps like you, who require, appropriately so, time to build trust, to be sure, to know that opening up will lead to more blessing than burden, more embrace than possible rejection. I really appreciate Sondra's framing and her personal reflection this morning. Is it worth the risk of being reminded I don't belong in order to maybe find that I might? Let me say that again. Is it worth the risk of being reminded I don't belong in order to maybe find that I might? That risk, that human longing for belonging, being here can feel risky because we hold each other in our hands, whether we've just met or we've known each other for decades. And no matter how long it's been, we can still hurt one another. We can all hurt and we can be hurt. My hope is to help you decide whether that risk is worth making community here at UUCCI and on the Interfaith campus. My hope is that your longing for belonging and our intentional work of being a community where all may feel embraced is worth the risk that comes with being human and being messy together. So as I mentioned, I get a firsthand look at much of this risk calculation you might have gone through long ago or right now or continuously over time. And sometimes you don't realize the impact you make on one another until something is shared or a moment of opportunity arises to name that gratitude of being met with love and embrace. Yesterday, something like that happened for me while I was finishing up this sermon and preparations for today. I had a FaceTime call with a young woman named Ivy, who attends my alma mater, DePaul University in Chicago. She was writing a journalism piece for a class, like a profile you might read like a longer profile on someone, for someone who inspires her. And before you ask, it wasn't me. No one was wondering. But it was someone I told her about. It was a teacher that I had, someone that inspired me 15 years earlier when I was at DePaul. The professor she interviewed and I went to Japan together in 2010 to learn about religious and spiritual and ethical implications of atomic bombings and their aftermath. Her mother died, this professor, of acute radiation poisoning, not too much older than some who lose their parents when they're too young. And that story is for another time, about my trip there. I think I may have shared it a little bit in the past, but needless to say, it was a powerful trip. So for about 90 minutes, we talked on the phone about my memories of Dr. Miyamoto and how she shaped my young adult life. And towards the end, Ivy paused and expressed her gratitude to me personally. You see, I met Ivy like the way I met many of you. Ivy came here on a Sunday last summer after being invited by the Kevitts. She works at Four Seasons part-time when she's not in school. And she came and was sort of blown away that such a community exists. You might have remembered she shared during an open mic time at one of our services. She didn't understand, and perhaps none of us fully understand, and is still somewhat surprised that a community of love and embrace, one that values who you are more than what you believe, a community of hope and courage where we celebrate love and work for justice could exist right here in Columbus, Indiana, or at all, perhaps. A place of true belonging. She and I had a coffee a couple weeks later, last August, as I learned she was about to begin at DePaul as a transfer student this past fall. So yeah, it was really nice to get to know her just for that little bit of time about her journey, talk about my own, a little about my experience at DePaul, some of my favorite hangouts in Chicago. And then she went off to school. And we really have not talked up to about a week ago when she asked about this assignment and having a secondary source about Dr. Miyamoto. You never know the impact you might make on people's lives, especially when the relationships are short and passing. Like with those high schoolers this past week, I wasn't sure what gift I was offering Ivy for a couple hours over coffee last August. But then again, we don't often know. But it matters that we are intentional either way. A chance encounter, a short relationship, or a long one if we are so lucky to walk with one another through any length of our lives together, can make all the difference between our sense of belonging or perhaps being alone in this sometimes cruel, lonely world we find ourselves. So why am I telling you this? Well, it's important we don't take this place for granted, or these relationships, new or long-standing ones. Reverend Mykal Slack reminds us that even or especially when we place love at the center of who we are and how we are together, that we can't stop there. He says, quote, "Understand me, there's nothing wrong with a deep desire to put love at the center of all we do, say, and believe as Unitarian Universalists. Longing is often a vehicle for imagination, redirection, and change, and it can be the energy that drives us towards becoming more of who we say we want to be, both within our congregations and our affiliated organizations out in the world." For many years, Reverend Slack led, as a minister, one of those affiliated organizations in our Unitarian Universalist ecosystem, our world of UU, called Black Lives of Unitarian Universalism, or BLUE for short. BLUE is, quote, "committed to expanding the power and capacity of Black UUs within Unitarian Universalism, providing support, information, and resources for Black Unitarian Universalists, and justice-making and liberation for Black people throughout our faith," end quote. It is doing the work of belonging. That is what Blue is doing. That is what Mykal did, and now he's into a new ministry. Or rather, it is meeting the longing of so many Black Unitarian Universalists whose sense of belonging is not being met at their local Unitarian Universalist congregation. This is why he and many in our movement are weary at times when we champion love or sing about love, but aren't necessarily doing the hard work of love that requires change, and changing how we build community, how we shape our ministries, how we foster belonging, true belonging that leads to true living here and beyond these walls. When Reverend Slack says, quote, "Many of us remain in Unitarian Universalism despite those needs not being met in the ways we longed for, we do so because we believe in the power and possibility of love to help us shift course." He really means it. From his own lived experience as a Black trans man and as a minister to Black people in our faith. He really means it as a leader of countless Black UUs who have chosen to stay, even as we seek to make a better, more welcoming way forward for all of us, regardless of race, culture, and belief. Our longing for belonging is not only very human and common, it is something we can aid one another in. Not the angst of not yet fitting, but of truly having a place where all of who you are in all of your sacred multitudes and complexity is embraced and welcomed. And all of this is connected. Our work of being a community that is growing and vital, visible and welcoming, a community where we can connect and learn, sing and act courageously, a community that has chosen not a walled community, but a porous campus of interfaith encounter. This is our work of being that place where the risk of living is worth it. I don't know how long we will be here in this life, but I try to not take your presence or your life for granted. Whether you come for 2 hours on a field trip, or during a time of transition, whether you stumble in here by accident or after years of getting up the courage to choose community in the face of uncertainty, whether we have weeks to live or decades to share, I cherish you and what you bring to this community. You are a gift and worthy of belonging. And so may our care for one another meet the longing of our lives, not with fear and absent-mindedness, but with intentionality and embrace. May we find true belonging here, and then extend it outwards to each and every one who cross these doors or who we come to meet in this life. May it be so, and amen.